now I'm joined in the studio by Sir Simon Mayall, the former Deputy Chief of the Defence Staff. Lovely to see you this morning, Sir Simon. Thank you for joining me. Can we start with Joe Biden?
Yes, if we must.
I mean, this report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial, which begs the question, why is he then fit to stand as president for another term?
Well, I think a lot of Americans are asking that, and I wouldn't want to get involved in discussions about another nation's election. But, the President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of the most powerful force on earth, the backbone of NATO, it matters hugely to friends of America who's leading there.
I mean, are you convinced he's got all of his mental faculties? I mean, obviously, we've seen the gaffes, we've seen him physically trip up. He's getting very confused. Last week, he gives this press conference to justify that he's in the right mind and then confuses Mexico and Egypt, I think.
Well, it's not encouraging. I mean, the reality is the depth of the institutional strength of America is huge.
Yes.
With CIA, FBI, the military, etc. So there's a vast bureaucracy that's supporting. But in the current crisis, I'd say global crisis with China, with Iran, with the Red Sea, with what's going on obviously in Gaza, with Russia, Ukraine, energy, etc., you do look occasionally to leaders to give you that sense of stability that I'm in charge, I know what's going on, I'm a senior person and I'm in control. And so it is worrying. And I think, if you look at Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin, I hardly say Putin came over as...
What did you make of that then? I mean, he's basically blaming the Poles for the invasion by Hitler.
He's giving the narrative.
He's rewriting Russian history over the course of an hour and a half. It looked like Tucker Carlson was about to nod off at one point. I mean, is this man unhinged? How dangerous is he?
Well, he also, again, one does worry about the quality of leadership in Russia. There's a man who's put himself under huge pressure by the aggression against Ukraine. Clearly, he's not a well man. I don't think Tucker Carlson did any of us any favours. He allowed Putin to spout off this sort of mythology that is still very powerful in Russia about grievance and entitlement. And of course, what Putin got out of it was Carlson saying, being used as a stooge to say to the West, give up on Ukraine.
Yes.
Russia's not going to give up. Why are you wasting your time? And so you combine the two and you get a little unsettled.
But then we've talked about Biden. Is the prospect of a Trump presidency also worrying because of his approach to Putin? I mean, he's very closely aligned with Tucker Carlson. They're of the same sort of vein. The next thing we know, we could see the leader of the free world saying to Putin, we'll have half of Ukraine. Well,
he's quoted at a rally, I can't remember where it was, of telling the story about saying to a European leader who said, how dare you almost threaten the withdrawal of American support for NATO. And he quite rightly said, if you don't pay up, you're delinquent. And if you're delinquent, I will act, and he's on record to say the equivalent of, I will tell Putin to take whatever he wants, and you've got it coming to you.
Yeah.
Pay up. And of course, we've heard this message all the way back from Obama and probably earlier, that the Europeans are not pulling their weight in order to justify American taxpayers' support. Very fair, but you rather hope, wiser minds in America will say, actually, our security is vitally important to American security.
Very quick question on Zelensky and the sacking of this army chief, Valery Zelensky, or Zelensky. What does that tell us? I mean, is Ukraine losing the war? Is this looking worse for Zelensky, do you think?
I think it is. And Zelensky is very worried, Houthis, Red Sea, economy, weak economies in the West, Gaza, obviously the switching of American issues to Gaza and Israel, the whole clagging up in Congress about support for Ukraine. This is not a good time for him to be saying, I don't trust my senior military people.
No, it's a bad look.
And then going back to
While I've got you,
supporters.
I must just ask you finally about this recruitment crisis in the army. We've got a story on the front of the Telegraph today effectively saying that they want to relax security for overseas recruits because they're down on numbers. I mean, is this the result of the British Army making a mistake in outsourcing recruitment to firms rather than doing it in-house?
Yes, Cabinet have had a decade to get their house in order, and they've failed. It is taking far too long to get those who want to come. It is part of, I would say, argue a bigger issue to do with trying to get people to sign up for God, King and Country. At the same time, while there's a whole plethora of approaches trying to demonise Britain's history, role, and all the things.
You think wokery might be playing a part here because
I think
people
there's
are
a huge part. We
are
asking young men, fundamentally young men from largely the British working class, to sign up for God, King and country, to lay their lives on the line. And at the same time, they're being told that the country they're supposed to be supporting is colonial, imperial, full of, which again contrasts with how Putin is using mythology to give the Russians a sense of pride, which they don't deserve in this case, whereas we have every right to be hugely proud of our history and the young men and women who support our armed forces in defending it.
Interesting point. Very interesting. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning, Sir Simon.
Thanks,
Lovely
Camilla.
to see you.